Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of moving from panic to purpose during the COVID-19 pandemic. So yesterday we walked through basically page 3 of the workbook, Moving from Panic to Purpose. This is available on Amazon. You can also get it at shop.leadatanyllevel.com if you're interested, but there's absolutely no obligation to get the workbook, just if you want to follow along. So we did page 3 yesterday. And today we're going to talk about how do you feel. Now, those of you who have seen my Network Beyond Bias program or my Moving from Panic to Purpose program know that step 1 of overcoming your default patterns is noticing your own feelings, putting yourself on notice. But what I've come to understand about a lot of us is that we're not always good at naming or claiming our feelings, especially if those feelings are unpleasant or quote unquote negative. And so what I wanted to talk to you about today is unpleasant feelings, naming and claiming those unpleasant feelings, because anytime we're faced with change, anytime we're in a crisis situation, our unpleasant feelings. And so much of the time we're told, as you know, when we're younger, don't cry, shake it off. You don't have a right to be angry, all that sort of stuff. And what I want to say to you is you have a right to your feelings. And even if those feelings are not ones that we like, we still need to recognize and honor them. Because until we've honored them, until we've done that important work of acknowledging our feelings, it's hard to get them to go away. It's hard to make them less than present or less than front and center. And I want you to just jot down the ones that sound familiar to you, that that resonate with you right now. And again, it's okay. This is a judgment-free space. You're probably in the comfort of your own home. Nobody hopefully is looking over your shoulder about how you feel. But don't look over your own shoulder. Just let yourself feel unpleasant feelings, okay? Now, tomorrow we'll talk about the pleasant feelings because you might have some of those too. But for today, we're going to focus on letting our unpleasant feelings happen, okay? So we'll start with just naming some feelings. Now, if you're having a hard time naming feelings, which I know some people do, and the reason I know this is because when I do, I'll do workshops and I'll say, how would you feel in the event of? And people will give me answers that have nothing to do with feelings. When I get to the feelings behind the behaviors, behind those, behind the circumstances, or that might be driven by the circumstances around us. So let me give you some examples. Angry or even enraged. Now, right now, there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's okay to be angry. And your anger may have a direct target. There may be a person that you're angry with. It may be that you're angry at a situation. You may even be angry with yourself. I know for a lot of us, if we're uncomfortable with anger, we'll turn that anger inward. And that's not healthy. So if you're angry, just name it and say who you're angry with. It doesn't mean they have to resolve it for you. But if you can say, I am angry with X, or I am angry about X, then that can help you let go of it because you've acknowledged it. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. You might be miserable where you are right now. You may feel diminished because you feel helpless, right? You can't control what's going on around you, and sometimes that makes us feel less than. You may feel embarrassed, perplexed, helpless, frustrated, distressed. Especially right now, a lot of people are feeling very alone because you're either in a situation where you're by yourself, literally alone in your home, or maybe you are alone in your home with people who make you feel more lonely. Acknowledge that, understand that that's a normal human emotion. You may feel guilty. And when we talk tomorrow about positive or pleasant feelings, some of those pleasant feelings can then immediately lead us to guilt because we think, oh my gosh, what right have I to complain? I've got, all of these other things going for me. You may feel sulky. It may be really hard to get work done right now, or it may be really hard to respond to your family because you just want to sit and sulk. You may feel resentful or hostile. Now, I noticed last week, which was my first week home with all three of my kids, I was getting a little testy with my daughter. She's 4, she's a sweetheart. She's just being a kid, but I was trying to focus on something and she kept coming in and climbing on me. And, and I was starting to get a little testy with her. And so, but I noticed it. And once I noticed it and I named it and I realized where it was coming from, it was a conflict, right, between my wanting to get something done and her need for attention. And then I was able to kind of work out with her, like, okay, I'll get this done, then I'll take a break, or I'll get this done and then we'll play a game, or whatever the thing was. So just understanding that I was feeling hostile about the situation, right? Not like I was angry with her. I was just, we were in conflict. You may feel bitter or paralyzed. Fear can be paralyzing. You may feel hesitant about your next steps. You may feel insecure. And in a couple days, we'll talk about how our feelings protect our values and our identities. If you are, especially let's say you are the role of, primary breadwinner in your family, and maybe you've been furloughed or you've lost your job because of, because of the lockdown. You may be feeling very insecure because you've lost a part of your identity as the primary breadwinner, for example. You may feel ashamed, disappointed, or even betrayed by what's going on right now in your immediate vicinity, or in your job, or within your family, or, by the country or the world. You may be nervous or afraid. You may be grief-stricken. Grief is real and it needs to be felt. The longer you bury those things, the more they eat away at you. And so it's painful to feel in the moment, but honor those feelings. You may be feeling anxious. You may be feeling disinterested in what's going on around you. You may be disinterested in your family or your work because you're so overcome with anxiety. That happens, right? Sometimes we just shut down. You may be really worried, which is a little bit more active of a feeling than disinterested, right? Disinterested is kind of disengaged, pushing away. Worried is sort of jumping in and really getting in and almost making yourself sick over it. You may even feel panicked. And I don't use that word lightly. I've had panic attacks in the past. And, panic attacks are very real. You feel like you're dying. You feel like you can't breathe. You get physically ill. And so what I would encourage you to do, if you're feeling acute distress, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical acute distress, please reach out to a health professional. There are a ton of licensed therapists, life coaches, business coaches, who are also licensed therapists, by the way, in a lot of cases. Your primary care physician, if you have a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a social worker that you already work with, a lot of them are able to do telemedicine now, which is you just basically call them or you get on an app and you can interact with them remotely. If you are in acute distress and you are employed, contact your employer's Employee Assistance Program, or EAP. A lot of times you can get, a few counseling sessions with a licensed provider that way for free or at very, very low cost. So whatever you're feeling, no matter how negative those feelings are, I would encourage you to write them down and acknowledge them. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk about pleasant feelings and what impact that can have on our responsiveness to change. Sometimes we can channel even these unpleasant feelings of worry, of dread, of anger into productive use, right? So we can use that energy, we can shift it in a different direction that helps us move forward and move from panic to purpose. But we can't use our feelings if we can't name them and claim them. So I'm going to ask you today, don't be afraid of your feelings. Name them, claim them, and let's move forward together.